welcome back to Ash Brothers Outdoors. I'm your host, Anthony Asher, and this is the 4th episode of our complete guide on how to get started fur trapping. In this video, we're going to be talking about bait and lure, proper usage of it, how to store it, different applications for it, the whole 9 yards. And before we get started, I want to thank everybody who's critiqued our videos recently. I appreciate that very much. I want to make sure I'm delivering quality content to you guys. And if there's anything wrong with the videos at all, please let me know in the comments, and I'll gladly take any feedback I can get on my videos. Now, several of our viewers reached out to us and said that our videos they're too dim, and I apologize about that. I hope this one's better. We finally got the lights working again, and we've just been getting a lot of rain recently, and it's so dang humid that is interfering with our lights. Lights don't like to come on. So I finally got them fixed today, so I hope you can see me better here. I'm not sure if you want to see my ugly mug better or not, but at least hopefully you can see what I'm going to be showing you better. So let's jump right into this. Now this is geared towards predator trapping. Coyotes, bobcats, fox, coon, badger, that type of stuff. So where should I start? I mean, this is a big subject. So anyways, I'm going to start with gearings first. Now, especially if you're first getting started into trapping, especially if you're young, don't have a lot of money, got a tight budget, and you can't afford a lot of bait and lure. Now, don't think you have to go and buy a whole ton of bait and lure if you're on a tight budget. A good variety is good, but if you can't afford getting a good variety, what I recommend, if you can't afford anything else, buy some good quality urine. It's a universal attractor. It's very natural. You'll catch a lot of animals on urine. So make sure it is good quality. How do you tell if it's good quality? Well, you want it to smell exactly like the animal you're catching, you're going after. Or let me rephrase that. It should smell exactly like the animal it comes from. Coyote urine should smell like a coyote. Bobcat urine should smell like a bobcat. Fox urine should smell like a fox. Now, if you get it and it either smells extremely, extremely rancid, not good quality urine. If it has very little to no smell, not good urine. You want it to be good and potent, smell exactly like the animal it comes from, but you don't want it to be just doesn't smell like anything. Now, when you go to buy it, I do not at all recommend getting urine from a big trapping supplier. I did that once. I'm not going to say who it's from because I don't want to be bashing any companies, but I got some urine from a big trapping supplier one time, and it was worthless. There was next to no smell. I don't think we caught anything on it. It might have been at a set that we caught something at, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't from that urine. It's from the other attractors we had that said it was worthless. So I recommend getting it from somebody that is a smaller guy, because when you get it from a smaller guy, they do it in smaller quantities, and they can make sure they can put more time into it because they don't have near as the huge volume the big suppliers do. They can't produce it as good quality as the smaller guys do because they can put more time and effort into it. So that's what I found. You get it from the smaller companies, it's usually a lot better. I used this stuff from Wonder Wildlife Control last year, and I really like this. This is good quality urine. He's a small guy. That's what I really liked about that as well. I support the small companies, and the small guys, they seem to have a lot better quality urine. And I used over a pint of this, both his coyote, bobcat, and fox urine last year, and this is actually my brother's stuff. Is what he was using. He wasn't able to track very much, so he dropped out of trapping last year. He gave this to me, so that's why there's only a little bit used. But I used over a pint of Wonder Wildlife Control stuff, and then I was using Southern Snares and Supplies urine, and that was I was used about half a pound of that before the season ended. So It is good quality stuff. Just almost all the catches I made last year had urine at them. Well over half. So urine is going to be one of your most versatile attractants. I really like it. I definitely don't go trapping without good urine in my bucket. Now, with urine, I mean, you might think that coyote urine would be the best if you're going after coyotes. That's not always the case. A lot of people like fox urine better. It produces better for them. Now, I haven't had a lot of luck with fox urine myself in my little area. I seem to have better luck with the coyote and bobcat, but don't worry, I have had luck on the red fox urine as well. And if you're going to be using a fox urine, use red fox urine, because that is it's better attractive than gray fox urine. Most of the time, the only thing that's attractive to gray fox urine is gray fox. That's what I'm told. So red fox is definitely the most popular. And so what Mark June recommends, use coyote urine at urine post sets, scant sets, that type of stuff. Use red fox urine at baited sets like dirt holes. Use bobcat urine as a change-up. I've caught a lot of animals on bobcat urine. You get a good quality bobcat urine, it's going to produce for you. Now, I do use a couple other urines. I just started getting into doing this last year. I mean, this is a more of a change-up, especially when they're getting used to your coyote, bobcat, and fox urine. You can start throwing this at them. We've got mink urine from Southern Snares and Supply. That's something they've never smelled around here. It's going to be a good change-up, curiosity attractor for them. Mink urine. And I also use a little bit of coon urine. I mean, it's not going to be one of your best producers, but it'll be a good change-up. Maybe catch those ones that are a little bit more educated. I mean, just a little twist you can put out there to help you put a couple more coyotes in your bag. Now, Southern Snares and Supply, I mean, they're not a huge supplier, but they're still a pretty decent size. But I did use their urines last year, and I was impressed. They're good quality urines. I had a good success with their urines, so I'll probably be going back to them. And what's nice about it, their urines are pretty cheap. They're some of the cheapest stuff I found out there, and it was good quality stuff, so I was definitely impressed by that. The stuff from Wonder Wildlife Control is a little bit more expensive, but it's good quality stuff. I love his urine, and I will definitely be going back for more this season. Now we're going to get into baits and lures. Now, when you're getting started, especially when I was getting started as well, a lot of beginners like to try to make their own stuff, and I don't recommend that at all. Making your own bait and lure is a big deal. You've got to preserve it right. You've got to have it formulated. I mean, if you're making your own stuff, you're begging for trouble, because when you're first getting started, there's so many things that can be going wrong. Your sets might not look right. You might not be presenting your attractants right. You might have bad location. You might have macro, intermediate, or micro. We'll talk about that in our locations episode, which is coming up. There's so many things that be going wrong, and if you can take one of those things that can be going wrong out of the equation, it's better. It's best. If you're trying to make your own stuff, your bait and lure might not be working. You may be doing everything else right, but your bait and lure is not working. So what I recommend is, if you can't do anything else, like I said, get urine. Just get some good quality urines. But if you're going to get some bait and lure, don't try to make your own. I recommend getting some of the more famous stuff from renowned bait and lure suppliers, and go with that. Stuff that you know works. Now, you can't take everything and assume that it's going to work really well in your area, because in a way, predators are kind of like humans. In some areas, they like maybe mice-based stuff a lot, and then you may go 15 miles down the road, or even 5 miles down the road, and they don't like the mice stuff. They like something that's bobcat-based or horse-based. baits and maybe gland lures, but over here they like the mice stuff and curiosity lures. I mean, they're like humans. I mean, sometimes you feel like a hamburger and sometimes you feel like a burrito. I mean, so not everything is going to work. I mean, I've used some really famous stuff in my area and it just didn't work very well for me. It just didn't produce well in my area. Now, what I really like about Mark June's products is in his DVDs. I mean, he went to like 6 different states in his DVDs, 5 or 6. Between his Reducing the Numbers DVD and his Bobcat Trapping DVD, he went to like 5 different states, and his bait and lure is producing everywhere. So that's what I really like about his. It's good quality stuff, and it produces in most sections of the country. But, you know, get some stuff that's more famous from renowned trapping supplier, bait and lure suppliers, and you're going to have a lot more successes than if you go and try to make your own. So now we're going to talk about baits. Now, a bait is not a lure. There's a big difference between baits and lures. A lure is, you know, designed to attract their different senses, I guess you could say. You know, a call lure is supposed to reach out and bring them in from a distance. A curiosity lure is just something, you know, it's kind of like, what's that? I mean, they may want to eat it. They may want to mark it. Who knows? But it's just something that's so definitely going to be like, what is that? You know, if they smell it, come check it out. And food lure is something that's actually going to make them want to eat it, dig for it, that type of stuff. A gland lure is like, hey, who's in my territory? I mean, they're very territorial animals, and you know, your gland, they start smelling somebody else in their territory, they start getting alarmed, like, who's in my territory? I don't want anybody in my territory. So that's one thing. So with baits, it's usually something they're gonna want to eat. They're gonna want to dig for. Baits are gonna be a lot cheaper than your lures. They're usually mostly a meat or possibly a fruit base with some other enhancing ingredients thrown in. Now, some people want to just go and take a hunk of venison or beef or something out of that you can buy in the grocery store and throw it down a dirt hole. And there's a couple flaws of that. One, and how should I put this? Like, this is the way I look at it. With a bait, a professionally made bait, that's like just the meat of whatever's based of that meat, and then it's like it's seasoned with the other ingredients, that makes it taste better. When you just take a hunk of meat and throw down that hole, it's unnatural, and it's just like just a slab of meat. I mean, the way I look at it is, you know, would you rather have a steak that's seasoned and everything, or just a slab of meat that's just cooked and no seasoning at all? That's pretty blah. You may catch stuff on just a hunk of meat, but you're going to have much better success with your bait that has different ingredients that's going to be much more attractive to an animal. Now, this one here is Ambush from Young's Bait and Lure Company. I used this a lot last year, and I caught coyotes, bobcats, fox, and coon on it. This is a very versatile bait. It's beaver based. It's kind of sweet smelling. I really like this bait. Now we'll talk about food lures. You want to use a food lure as dirt hole sets. I like to use it, especially sets where animals can dig if they want to, and they can't just come up. I don't like to put them on the top of the ground like at flat sets a lot, because they can just come up, take it, and run. So, one of my favorite food lures is buffalo oil from Washita River Valley Trading Post. This is made by Billy Doris. They are based out of Arkansas, and I used this a lot last year. And this can be used both as a bait lure ingredient and by itself. I used it by itself. A lot of trappers use it by itself, and it's a universal attractor. You can catch coyotes, bobcats, fox, coon, skunk, badger. I mean, the whole 9 yards. It's a very, very universal attractant. It's oily, so it'll hold up to the weather well, and I found that it works really well in combination with a beaver-based bait. That's what I found. So, great stuff. I caught coyotes, bobcats, and fox on it as well. So, it is very good at tracking. So with Curiosity lures, I like to use them especially on charged stump sets and also in dirt holes where they can dig for it, because I've often had digging reactions from your Curiosity type lures. Now this one is Snagopus. It is also from Ouachita River Valley Trading Post, and it's actually a rub lure. It's still a Curiosity lure, but with this particular type, they like animals, especially bobcats, like to rub on this. So with a rub lure, you're going to want to put up like 10 to 12 inches off the ground on a post or rock or something, and it'll make the animals want to come and rub on it. So one of my favorite sets to use a Curiosity lure at is at a charged stump set in a combination with good quality urine. I've had a lot of luck with that. Gland lures are my biggest producer. They have been these past 2 seasons. Urine and gland lures have been my best producing products. I really like Mark June's gland lures. All of my sponsors make good quality gland lures, but I really like his Coyote Frenzy from Mark June's lures. This was my best producing gland lure last year. It's a coyote gland lure, and it smells exactly like a coyote. I mean, it's very, very coyote smelling, I guess. I used this lure last season with a lot of success at both 2 scat and single scat sets in combination, also with a good coyote urine. I caught a lot of coyotes on this last year, and also his Silent Stalker. This is his bobcat gland lure. I caught 4 coyotes at one location using this last year, and I'd been on the location I'd always found a lot of sign at in previous seasons, but I'd never been able to catch anything there. Use this Silent Stalker, his bobcat gland lure, at a 2 scat set, of course using bobcat scat, this, and a good bobcat urine, and I caught 4 coyotes that season in that spot. So I was really impressed with this. And Mark June's most famous product is his Fox Frenzy. This is a fox, of course. It's a fox gland, and he really likes this in combination with his Widowmaker paste bait, and it works really, really well in all times of the year for all animals. His Coyote Frenzy, it's the exact same recipe as Fox Frenzy, except with coyote glands. So I'm a big fan of Mark June's gland lures. Now, with Ouachita River Valley Trading Post also makes several gland lures. I only have one of them, his Toe Jam, which is a coyote gland, and I used it last year, and I used it in early season and mid-season. I didn't have a lot of success with it. I used it in the late part of the season, and I started having success with it. So I really like that as a late season gland lure. It was catching the coyotes after they've been seeing me around for a while. You know, some of their buddies are being taken out. I threw that back. I took it out for a while, and I threw it back at them. Boom! I started catching coyotes with it. So also call lures. No, I'm not a big fan of call lures because in my area we have pretty mild winters usually. This past winter in Texas, as most of you probably know, was hell froze over back in February of 2021. So I shouldn't say we're having mild winters, but generally we have pretty mild weather. So I don't use a lot of call lures now. Young's Bait Lure Company makes Agent Orange, and if you're running the ultimate call lure of all time, this is it. You pop the lid off of this. There's a reason to have it duct taped. Put electric tape around to seal it off. You open this up, it's like a skunk spray in the room. This is potent stuff. It will reach out from a long ways, and good Glen lure. Call lure. Now, another word, especially on baits, a lot of people like to use stinky, yucky, rancid baits, and I do not buy that kind of stuff at all. If it's real, if they're talking about, especially in the description of how gunky and skunky and yucky it is, that turns me off right there. I'm not touching that stuff. I like to use milder, fresh baits. And there's a lot of advantages to using a fresher bait. One, it's a better attractor. It attracts your target animals better. You start getting into rancid, yucky baits, you gotta be calling a lot of skunks, coons, and possums in, and you're gonna have catch circles everywhere. And if you're trying to catch coyotes, bobcats, and fox, catch circles everywhere are not a good thing at all. So that's one reason to use a fresher, mild bait. Also, if with a mild or fresh bait, it's something they're gonna want to eat, not just roll on and leave. When you're using a fresh bait, if they dig it up, they can eat it, they like it, they can go on, they smell it again down the road. If you miss them at this set, they smell it again down the road, they say, that was good. They'll go after it again, and you got more chance at them. With a rancid, yucky bait, they may dig it out. If they're attracted very much to it at all, they'll dig it out and roll on it and leave, and they smell it again, they're like, oh yeah, I know what that is, I'm not interested, and keep going. So I have a much better with my milder, fresh baits. I've had a lot of luck with this Ambush from Young's Bait and Lure, Mark June's Wintermaker Paste Bait, Predator Perfects, Texas Twister. Both of those are fresh podcat based baits. Animals really like to eat it. So I like the fresher stuff, not so loud and yucky. And I was talking to Mark June himself this past year, and he said, when he started getting up north, he could use stuff that was a little bit more skunky, more rancid. Well, not really rancid, but a little bit louder smelling up north, and he could have success with it. He brings it down further south, and it just started to turn stuff off. You will catch stuff on it, but you will have much better success with a fresher. Now, when you start getting up into the extreme far north, you are going to have more success with your louder baits and your call lures, just because it is so extremely cold up there. So we'll talk about applying sets. Scents at a set. That's one of the biggest questions everybody's always asking: how much should I put out? How much should I put out? So here's my advice on it. Water molecules carry scent. So if you're really humid, get a lot of moisture, you don't have to use very much. But if you're like where I am, get very little moisture, pretty arid and dry, you're going to need to use more, because that scent won't carry as much as it will in humid, wet conditions. So when I was first getting started into trapping, everybody told me, use a tiny bit, use just a tiny bit. And we were watching a lot of DVDs from some pretty renowned trappers across the country, and everybody was using a lot more than what everybody else was telling me. Use a tiny bit. They were using a decent amount, and I was like, first I thought, these guys are idiots. And I was like, no, these guys are professionals. They've caught hundreds of coyotes in the season. They know what they're doing. So I finally decided, I'm going to start putting more out. Boom! I started putting out more bait and lure out of set, and my catch started going up. So now I get most of the people that were telling me use more, use less, were from far north, northeast, that area where they get a lot more moisture, so they don't need to use as much as I do. But worse it ain't dry, you got to use more down here. But I still don't use a lot. I use Young's Bait and Lures bait scoops, and I'll just get maybe a teaspoon and a half maybe of bait, it depends on how loud it is. I mean, most of mine are pretty mild and fresh, like I said. So about a tablespoon is a huge amount for me. I mean, maybe half a tablespoon at the absolute max, and it's way plenty. Now, if you have an I don't recommend when you're making a set, don't make an extremely deep dirt hole, because I started noticing as soon as I started making dirt holes as deep as I could possibly make them, I rarely caught anything at those, because my theory is that bait is so far down that hole that it can't, like Ed Snyder was telling me from Kansas Trapline, that scent can't reach up, doesn't come up out of that hole well enough to be able to get out around that set, and when something comes past they can smell it. It's so far down there they can't even smell it, they just keep trucking. So I usually use a 6 to an 8 inch dirt hole, maybe a teaspoon to half a tablespoon max bait. And as far as my lures go, if I'm using a call lure, just a tiny bit. These things are real skunky. You don't have to worry about them not reaching out. Just a little bit. Dip my Q-tip into it just to get a little bit on there. Push it down. With a gland lure, I'll use close to 10 drops if it's a liquid. I mean, just dribble a little bit on there, my sheep's wool or whatever. I mean, it really depends on how loud it is. I mean, if it's pretty loud, I won't put as much out. If it's pretty mild, I'll put a little bit more out. Now, with urine, animals, when they mark something, they don't empty themselves like, you know, everything else does. They use that for marking, telling everybody where their territory is. I mean, like transmitting messages. So when they're gonna mark something, they come and they hit it and they go on. So just a quick whoosh on something is plenty enough. I mean, don't just sit here and just drench it, because that's not natural. I mean, I'll put if I had to measure it, it'd probably be about a teaspoon or so. I mean, just whoosh, squirt it good. And now your urine, of course, it's water based, so it will wash off after rain. So if you get a rain or a heavy snow, you'll want to freshen up with urine. But with your lures, especially something like buffalo oil that's real oily, you don't have to freshen that up after every rain. Now, this past season, I was reluring every 14 to 18 days, and I had a lot of good success with that. So that's what I recommend. That's what I do. If you're getting a lot of moisture, you might want to, you can extend that period a while, because that, like I said, water molecules hold that scent. They dissipate that. They help put that scent out in the air. So you don't need to relure as often. I mean, if you get like an insane downpour of rain, you might want to relure a little bit just to make sure that stuff didn't wash away. But that's what I recommend. And as far as storing your bait and lure, I had one of our subscribers who entered our giveaway. He said he wanted to see a video on how to store your bait and lure and everything in the preseason. I mean, preseason, postseason, and preseason. So, what I recommend doing, I mean, this probably isn't the absolute best way out there, but what I recommend doing is taking some glycerin. I mean, you can buy medical grade glycerin at your local pharmacy, or it for like $5 a pint at a traffic supplier. Just get some glycerin, get a little bit on your finger, and just rub the threads on the inside of the cap of your bait or lure jar. And then you just tighten that down real tight, and keep it either in a refrigerator, or if your wife doesn't want you putting your nice smelly bait lure in a refrigerator, then just put it in a dark, cool place where it will preserve. And bait lure really doesn't expire. If you store it correctly, I mean, it will get better with age. I mean, it's like wine, I guess. I mean, it improves with age. So that's what I recommend doing. But Also, another way, especially with your more skunky and louder baits and lures, what I recommend doing is either you can take your old trap wax if you wax it out of your traps. Just take that wax that's left over, and you can just get a little bit, melt it, pour a few drops in there, just swirl it around, and get it good on those threads. You tighten that down, it'll seal that entire jar off. Or you can use paraffin or something like that. You can just melt, put in there, and I mean it's not hard to get off when you need it, but it will seal that up real good. So then keep it in a cool, dry, dark place, and it'll be good for you next season, and it'll even improve with age. Now I definitely recommend refrigerating your urines because they can go rancid. Now these are preserved. They've got sodium benzoate in them, which is a preservative. So they will last if you leave them out, but they will probably, I would definitely recommend, refrigerating them just to be on the safe side. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something from it. If you have any more questions about baits and lures, how to present them to an animal, how to use them at a set, how much I should put out, anything at all regarding bait lures, let me know in the comments and I will get back with you. Or if you have a question about any of our sponsor-specific products, feel free to contact any of our sponsors and they will definitely fill you in on anything you want to know. So again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.